If we click and hold the rectangular marquee tool, we get other options, but the one that I use most is the elliptical marquee tool. So just click on that and you will see that it's the same thing as the rectangular marquee tool, except that it makes selections or shapes, if you will. It's not a shape yet, but you know what I'm saying. Selections of circle or ellipse. Okay, so and just to get comfortable with these tools, the marquee tool, whenever you let's say I'm drawing the shape of a circle, and then when I release, I try to draw something else elsewhere, the first one disappears. If you want the first one not to disappear, here's what you can do. Go ahead and draw a circle. If you want it to be a full circle, hold down the shift key. Okay, and if you want to draw another full circle right here and you don't want the first one to disappear, you can basically hold down the shift key and then draw your new circle. Okay, so this way you preserve your existing circle and the new one. The same concept of holding down the shift key applies to the rectangular marquee tool. If you just need to have more than one selection on your document, just hold down the shift key. Otherwise, if you draw a new shape, the others are going to disappear. Okay, and just make sure you understand that all of this comes with a lot of practice. Now moving on to the polygonal lasso tool, which is this third tool right here. What this does is the same thing, actually, selections like the rectangular marquee and the circle tool and the elliptical marquee tool, but you can draw your own shape, because the rectangular marquee tool forces you to draw either a rectangle or a square, and the elliptical marquee tool forces you to either draw a full square or an ellipse. But if you wish to draw your own shape or trace something, you can use the polygonal lasso tool. So for example, let's say I want to create a new layer right here and call it star, for example. And then I want to try to trace the shape of a star over this blue section. Remember that I'm not on the section, on the layer of the square blue. I'm on my own new layer called star. And that's why whatever I do on this layer is free from all other layers. So let me try to draw a star to the best of my abilities. And I will do that by selecting the polygonal lasso tool and start drawing my star. So what I would do is just click once and release, and then go to the top and then click once and release. Click once and release. Now, if I want a horizontal perfect line, I can hold down the shift key. So I get that. Otherwise, my hand's going to shake, and I'm not going to get that straight line. Okay. Now, let's say I made a mistake and clicked here. I can always fix my mistake, not by doing Command Z, which is usually the action in any Mac-related software to undo your mistake. Instead, you just hit delete. So if you hit delete, it will remove that point that you just inserted, that click, that last click. And if you keep deleting, it will delete the ones before. So let me fix that. So I'm clicking right here, and then I will hold down the shift key to get a straight line. And then so I'm doing this visually, so I hope I'll do a good job. I hope. Let's see. So right here, and then right here. Oh, it doesn't look that good to me, but it's not that bad either. Okay. It's a funny star. Okay. And then let me tell you that whenever you're doing a drawing, basically a drawing of a selection, using the polygonal lasso tool and other tools that we will cover later on, whenever you start and reach the end, which is right now for me because I'm going to close my shape right now. I finished drawing my star. I need to close my shape, so I'm going to hover this last line to the very beginning. And when I do that, you will see that a small empty circle appeared next to the polygonal lasso tool. That empty circle means that the shape is ready to close now, and I will get a selection if I go ahead and click. So let me do that. Okay, I clicked and then I have the shape of a star. Since I'm on my new layer, I can go ahead and give it a color. Let's select a darker version of this blue. I always like to choose a color and its darker version because it's a safe color palette. They always work together. So I just selected a darker blue and then hit OK and color that by clicking Alt Delete. And then to deselect, Command D again. Okay, my star is quite bad, but you get the idea. You now know how to use the polygonal lasso tool. If you want to do something more like a freehand and not have angles in your selection, you use the lasso tool. So let me go ahead and choose that. And let's say, for example, I go over this red square and create a new layer and call it, let's say, tree, and try to draw a tree, with my with a free hand, because it won't force me to having angles like the polygonal lasso would. So let me go ahead and draw my tree. Just make sure you work on your tree layer and draw the shape of the tree. I just clicked once and I'm drawing. I'm not releasing at all. And just notice that when I reach the beginning of my drawing, when my ending reaches the beginning, you don't see that empty circle that you would with the polygonal lasso. And now if I release, the shape completes itself. So this is a different concept slightly from the polygonal lasso. With the polygonal lasso, when you reach the beginning of your drawing, you would see that empty circle, which means that the selection is ready to close, to contain itself. But the lasso tool is different, because even if you release your hand somewhere very, very far from your drawing, it will still complete itself. Let me show you what I mean. If I just go ahead and draw something random and I just release my hand now, the ending where I am just right now will find the beginning, just like that. So what I did is just I released my hand right here, and then this ending found the beginning somehow, and the selection completed itself. So just so you know, you have to play around with these tools in order to get a feel about how they really work. So I just hit Command Z to get back to my tree, and then I'll go ahead and color it this blue color, and then deselect, holding down the Command key and then the letter D, Command D to deselect. Now let's go to the magic wand and let's hide these layers. Let's see how we can hide layers. You see this icon of the eye next to each of the layers. If you click on the eye, you hide that layer, which means you didn't delete it, you just are hiding it. So that's what I want to do with all of my layers, because I want to create actually I don't want to create a new layer, but I want to paste a picture that I found online. I went online and looked for a nice picture of a cardinal, which is this beautiful fuzzy bird that I love so much, and I chose a nice big resolution, high resolution image. I'm going to hover over the image and then hit Control, and this window opens. Okay, so this window opens and I just want to select copy image. Okay, so this is great because you can copy all images you want and then work in Photoshop with those images. Obviously, hopefully you're not using copyrighted material. This is for the purpose of a class, so it's perfectly fine. We're not selling the image or anything like that. So I copied the image and I came back to Photoshop, and now what I want to do is paste it. To paste it, the shortcut is Command V, or you can go under Edit and then Paste. So it will paste whatever you originally copied, and it pastes it for you on a new layer. That's why you don't see the cardinal on the star or the square blue and so forth layers. You see it on its own new layer called Layer 1. So let's go ahead and change that name to cardinal. And let's see what the magic wand does now. The magic wand selects pixels that are similar. So when I go ahead and click on the magic wand tool, I have to look at tolerance. Right now it says 50, which means that it it's a high tolerance. It will select quite a lot of pixels for me. So let's say I want to select the background. I will go ahead and click right here, and you see that it selected quite a lot. What it does, that it thinks, okay, what are the similar pixels that are, more or less close to one another in color, and it goes ahead and selects those. That's why it omitted these white flowers, because this light green has nothing to do with the white color of the flowers as far as color. Let me deselect this and show you another tolerance. Let's say 2. If I put a tolerance of 2 and click here, you see that it only selects these few pixels. Let me zoom in and show you. With a small tolerance of 2, what it did is it only selected, these pixels that happen to be almost the same, that happen to have almost the same color. So depending on what you wish to do, you go ahead and set the tolerance. Okay, so let's say for this purpose, I will choose something like 75%, which is quite high, and click on the bird. It's going to select as many red pixels as it can with the 75% tolerance. If I put it at 100 and click, it selected even more. Okay, so the higher the tolerance, the more pixels, obviously, that are related to one another in color will be selected, and the lower the tolerance, the less pixels will be selected. Now, what you can do with this, a million things. Sometimes you need to make a selection like this, which is actually, if I zoom in, it's not a very good selection. I mean, it's not a clean selection, because if you look here, you have so many jaggedy edges. The right way to, draw a shape would be with the pen tool, but we're not covering that yet. This is basically to make a quick selection. If you want to, a quick and dirty, if you will. So that's when you would use the magic wand to select similar pixels. What you can do with this is, I don't know, you can maybe copy this section of the bird, which is what I'm doing now. I'm hitting Command C, and then create a new layer, maybe paste it there by hitting Command V. Okay, let me hide the bird, and you'll see that section pasted there. When you start working with Photoshop and when you have a real project happening, you will start realizing how these tools make sense. For now, it's just a tutorial that covers how to do this and that. Okay, so let me unhide that, and I will get rid of this new layer, because I just wanted to show you how to just use the magic wand and what it can be good for. Since we're talking about selections, I want to go one step back and cover the magnetic lasso tool, which is under the polygonal lasso tool. So if I click and hold that, I get to the third option, which is the magnetic lasso tool. And this tool is quite powerful because it allows me to make selections that are almost perfect. If we want to make perfect selections, we have to use the pen tool, which we will cover in later tutorials, because the pen tool allows us to take complete control of the path we're tracing. But the magnetic lasso tool is the closest we can get to the pen tool. It's almost a perfect selection when we use it. So let me show you how. I'm just going to click once and then follow the shape of the bird, and you will see that the magnetic lasso tool snaps to the edges of my drawing. So I click once, and then I start, tracing the bird with my shaking hand. But since the magnetic lasso tool is so smart, it snaps to, the edges of my drawing. So it's not it's not including flowers or background. It's just helping me complete my trace. And obviously, when I reach the beginning, you will see that tiny circle next to the tool, which means it's ready to complete the selection. So this is quite a good trace of this bird. Obviously, the better trace happens with the pen tool, but the magnetic lasso tool allows us to make almost perfect selections.